Did you just throw your phone?
No, I did not throw the phone.
Hey all you cool cats and kittens, thanks for tuning in to Beg Pardon. As always, I'm Anthony, and this is Carlos. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome to the podcast where we dare you to say it again. We cover a variety of topics, if the intro was any indication of what today's topic is going to be about. But we cover topics kind of about everything and nothing. We give you our opinions that you never asked for about topics you never knew you cared about. So welcome to the show. How's it going, Carlos?
Pretty good. I didn't expect fully to how that was going to sound for the cool cats and kittens because it sounds good. But then when you really hear it, you're like, why would she say that? That was the most bizarre way to start like a newsletter for your fans.
I don't know. And maybe maybe it works for her personality. It doesn't work for mine. So
I mean,
I hope the audience can forgive me for for the way that came across. So today, obviously the topic we're talking about, Carole Baskins. I feel like I have to say it like that. Carole Baskins. Don't you feel like that?
100%. That's how I say it all the time.
Yeah. Carole Baskin ended up getting control of the of Joe Exotic's former wildlife park in a court order on Monday. And I guess Jeff Lowe, who now, well, let me back up. For any of you guys that are living under the darkest rock in the world and don't know who the Tiger King is, the Tiger King, a.k.a. Joe Exotic, a.k.a. Joe Passage, a.k.a. Joseph Passage Maldonado, a.k.a. I don't know how many million.
He had 4 names.
Right, he has 4 names. So he actually ran one of the largest tiger... it's definitely not a sanctuary. Ran one of the largest tiger zoos, exotic zoos, in the country, and they did a Netflix documentary about it, and it coincided kind of with the pandemic and the stay-at-home orders, which is why. You know what? I feel like people should give it more credit because I feel like it would have gotten as many views as it did, even if the pandemic wasn't happening, because it was insane. It was like a circus.
Yeah, it was kind of like the same hype up that Jersey Shore and all that had.
Right.
Where you didn't want to watch it, but you knew you had to watch it.
Right. So the whole premise behind this was he had this zoo and he had all these exotic animals, and he charged people to come in. And I think what, at least for me, the interesting thing about the whole experience was Joe Exotic, his personality. Yes, it is very cool, I guess, to see tigers and animals super up close. But it's even cooler to see Joe Exotic just doing insane, bizarre stuff for, what was that? 6 episodes, 7 episodes? It was a lot. Maybe 10.
I wanted to say it was I wanted to say it was 9 episodes.
Yeah, it was a lot. But anyway, so Joe Exotic, for those of you guys that don't know, Joe Exotic, larger than life personality, and he had this woman, Carole Baskins. Carole Baskins ran the Big Cat Rescue in Florida, and she was, and we'll get more into it, but I guess her main mission was to rehabilitate tigers. And rehabilitate wild animals that have been in quote-unquote captivity in the United States and kind of around. And she had this huge beef with Joe Exotic, and Joe Exotic, being Joe Exotic, he was insane. He was insanely threatening her. He was having blow-up dolls with dildos shoved in their mouths of her. He shot her with, not her, he shot the blow-up doll with firearms. He blew her up. He did a whole just a whole bunch of insane things. Well, he ends up getting the financial assistance of a gentleman by the name of Jeff Lowe, who comes in and he kind of takes over the entire operation. And again, we'll get more into it, but I feel he kind of concocted this way to kind of trap Joe Exotic into this murder for hire plot. for Carole Baskins, and now he's serving 22 years in prison. He's not a spring chicken either. If he served that full 22, I don't think that he'd be walking out. So
No.
yeah. And anyways, so they've obviously had legal disputes throughout their tumultuous relationship, and a court had just ordered that the farm or the zoo that now belonged to Jeff Lowe will belong to Carole Baskins. He has 120 days to get out of there. He, of course, knew all this isn't like new information for the parties involved. He's building that zoo right on the Texas-Oklahoma border. And that should be open within 90 days or 100 days, I think he said. So he had planned on moving everything out, but now she has the zoo. She has the like some vehicles, some sheds, some other stuff because Joe Exotic owed her $1 million.
Yeah. The important question is, did she get his EMT jacket?
Right, the bomber jacket. The bomber jacket. How did he? So, and I know the camera wasn't on him this entire time. Where did he find the time in between his staff losing their limbs, calling the police, notifying the patrons that somebody was forever mauled, like forever impaired by this animal, to swiftly throw on an EMT bomber and kind of walk around like he was an EMT?
He walked around like he was official. Like he was going to actually either repair that arm or... He was a veterinarian. He was some kind of medical professional in his mind.
Well, you heard whenever he was over there, I don't know if he was on the radio or on the phone, but he was like, yeah, the arm is completely torn off. It is completely torn off.
It was on the radio.
Yeah.
It had to be like in glass, like how those axes for fires and stuff are in glass. Had to be in his office, and he just like smashed it with his elbow and put that jacket on.
He was like, the time's now. The time is now. The time is now. I've been waiting for it. The time is now. I'm gonna throw on the jacket and I'm gonna save a life. He goes in the shop. He tells everyone like, hey, I don't know if you want a rain check or something, but before you guys see it on the news, staff member arm in a cage and the tiger ripped it clean off. He says it pretty cool as well, which is kind of jarring. He was just very kind of nonchalant about it. But how much of that do you think the Joe Exotic that we saw, how much of that do you think is just like this weird, like kind of like an act? Like he's really not like that. He understood the showmanship of it. Like, do you really think that is authentically him, or is it kind of like a P.T. Barnum thing where he was like, I understand what these people want, and I'm gonna do this is what I'm gonna do, and this is how I'm gonna be successful.
I think it was more along the lines of, I have to play this character to pull people into my zoo because, one, I had never heard of that place before this.
Same.
Two, I am in the camp of it should be a lot harder to get a zoo than it is. Like, a zoo should only be allowed for, like, legit funded, like the Bronx Zoo, San Diego Zoo.
Right.
Like, legit things that are funded, real veterinarians there, like, conservation stuff, beautiful. But if you're feeding them, like, spoiled Walmart meat, I feel like you shouldn't be a zoo anymore.
Yeah. And I feel like obviously that was like financially driven, right?
Correct.
That was financially driven. I think he did care about the animals, though. I do. I really do. I think he did care. I think that
at first.
Yeah, at first. I think that he was doing what somebody with limited resources. I think that he did not understand the extent of the resources you would need to successfully operate and maintain a zoo with dozens and dozens and dozens of 300-pound animals.
Correct. But it also blows my mind because, like, first of all, everyone in that documentary should be in jail for one reason or another.
Right.
Like,
yes.
Whether it's alleged murder, whether it's euthanizing tiger cubs, which that one was accused of, whether it's basically like brainwashing people to be like tiger wranglers in your zoo. Like a lot of the stuff that happened, I was like, how is this not like an FBI sting where they're just like cracking down on all these parks across America? Because at the end, spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, they say there's like 14,000 tigers in America alone in captivity, and there's less than X amount in the wild. And I'm like, are they endangered because people keep putting them in these damn zoos? Like,
Right.
would they be fine if they were out there?
And to be honest, I don't know how the authorities don't look at this and they're like, I don't know the validity of his arrest. I don't know the validity of what really happened. That's how I felt. At the beginning of this, at the beginning of that documentary, we all knew that this guy, the Tiger King, was in prison. We knew that from the very beginning of the thing, and it's like his road leading up to prison. And I thought it was going to show me like how sick he really was, and instead I left with a lot of questions.
Yeah,
I really did. I think that sometimes he was one of those guys that, and there are people like this, like, oh, I wish I could just kill them. Or like he was somebody that egged on, and then they're like, you just give him $3,000, he'll kill her. Yeah, let's kill her. You know what I mean? Like, I think that he understood he needed her and she needed him, in a sense. Like, they needed like this war between them to fuel like the animosity and the rivalry and the extreme behavior between the two of them.
It was all, from what it looked like in the whole series, it looked like to him it was more showmanship than anything else. Right. Because he was doing it on videos that he was showing his like fans.
Right.
It was always a public thing. People really didn't say like in private, Joe said XYZ. Almost everything he said was on audio or on camera.
Into the lens. Killing dolls of her into the lens, like straight in.
Yeah, so I feel like for him it was more showmanship. The problem is that when you talked about it so often, when it actually happened, like that somebody was like, hey, this happened, all of that comes into play, and they're like, well, look how many times you said it.
Right.
Like, look at the tape, my friend, you know? But even they can make like a secondary documentary to this with all the stuff that's coming out now, because like the whole alleged murder of her husband that people were blaming her for, people saying she didn't do it, she did do it. I say allegedly because, again, we don't know. But you go with that. Then you look at, now she's buying his zoo, which his ex-business partner kind of knew about because he's already building another one. And it's not like he didn't have the money to fix up that zoo, but he has the money to buy another zoo. I had to have known this was coming, sir. And then you look at, there's also news that her husband's will was forged. So you're like, how is everyone not in jail?
Right. Well, back to Jeff Lowe and that zoo. I think the issue was Joe was in possession of that zoo, and there were assets in the zoo after the lawsuit that were to become Carole's. And then Joe transferred, if you remember, the zoo over to his parents. And then
That's right.
And then then Carole went after his parents, and then Jeff Lowe came in to like save the day, and Joe Exotic transferred the zoo to him. Mm-hmm. So I think those assets, like I think the court was just like, enough is enough. They can't just keep cycling the assets to different people and then having you guys sue different people to get those assets that were originally Joe Exotic's. This is yours.
Yeah.
Essentially. I mean, Joe Exotic's not, I don't know what income, if any, he brought in, or his estate, or kind of what looked like his husband. I don't know if he got money from it, from the show, from the documentary on Netflix. I'm sure they did. I hope they did. I wouldn't have agreed to showcase my life if I wasn't getting paid for it, or somebody that could benefit from it, right?
Yeah.
Like, if he can't benefit from it, get some ramen in the commissary. If he can't benefit from it and get a pack of smokes, then hopefully his husband can, or somebody can benefit from it. But
Yeah.
there was no. He's not. Other than that, he's not making any money to pay this millions of dollars that he owes Carole Baskins for the lawsuit that they had. So what else are they going to take? The farm. I mean, the zoo. But there's no other option.
Yeah.
He had nothing left. Why Jeff Lowe was even there this long, I don't know. Maybe he just liked the nostalgia of it. Maybe he just like I don't know.
Yeah.
But like to hear him talk, he was like Joe was a menace to society. He was like a sick monster. Then why are you still there? Why'd you insert yourself and you leave yourself there? It wasn't like everything was fine and then Joe Exotic got crazy. He's been saying he's been crazy from the start.
Yeah.
Why did
years before that?
Yeah, why'd you stay?
Yeah. But also, why did you even go into business in the first place? Like, why did you think, like, I'm going to go into business with this guy? Not outright buy his quote-unquote zoo. I'm going to say park because, again, I feel like it's not a legit thing.
Yeah.
Why would you go ahead and buy that park, like, outright, if you knew he was that crazy? But instead, you went into partnership with him, and then you were like, I don't know what happened. He just snapped. Like, no, my friend, he's
Right.
been like that for years.
Right.
He hated her, she hated him for years, because even the third guy who owned that tiger, whatever, sanctuary, whatever you want to call it, he also said he knew that those two hated each other. And he didn't like either one of them too much anyway. So I kind of feel like all these people in the tiger game feel like they're the only ones that should have big cats because they're the only ones who know how to deal with it. Whether it's Carole and her big cat rescue, which Joe blatantly copied, logo and all.
Right. That was part of the lawsuit.
Yeah. Or that guy who's like a doctor in mythical science, which whatever that means.
I can't even pronounce his last name. He spelled it out for us during the show, but I can't.
Yeah, no idea.
Yeah. I don't know. And I wish that we could have done got some more research done on this. Had Carole on the show maybe, but clearly she's not going to be here to find out what. I just want to know the truth. Like I just want to know. First, I want to know how this whole thing with your husband, your first husband. I want to know how that happened. I want to know how the Florida State officials allowed, like, oh, he's just gone. Like, they still haven't found a body.
Mm-hmm.
That's whatever. Like, nobody... That's odd. That's very odd. And then I'm assuming that she profited, whether it's insurance or whether it's his assets or something from that. I don't know if he had kids from a previous marriage. I don't know any of that information.
Yeah,
or I don't know if he was... he did have other kids?
Remember they had them on the documentary. They had his first wife and his two adult
Oh,
daughters.
yeah. And then why... Yeah. Why... I mean...
And they were like,
it's all
she
just
fought us on the will.
Right. It's just all very weird that it was just like settled. It's a shame. Sorry about that. Sorry. And then she gets married again with that dude that she had outside on the leash in their wedding pictures. It's almost too bizarre to be real, but it's too bizarre to be fake.
Yeah. It's so
Like-
strange that it has to be real.
Right. So now Joe Exotic is petitioning Donald Trump to get him out of jail. I've seen that Free Joe Exotic, the Free Joe Exotic website. They're really pushing his husband, Dylan, I believe his name is. Yes, Dylan.
I think so, yeah.
His husband, Dylan, is like spearheading this, reaching out with his like newfound celebrity and trying to motivate people to sign this petition to get Donald Trump's attention, to get Joe Exotic out of prison. I didn't think that Donald Trump was going to sit down with Kim Kardashian and work on prison reform, and I was wrong. I will say that I am never not surprised by the President of the United States. Good or bad, whatever your opinion of that man is, it's a show, and it's going to be a show. So it's completely plausible that whether it's to avert attention, whether it's to flex, whether it's because he genuinely cares, I would not be surprised if I saw the President of the United States arm in arm with Joe Exotic in the Rose Garden after his release. I wouldn't be surprised. Nothing would surprise me at this point.
I feel like he honestly thinks that he might be royalty, honestly. Like a monarch from somewhere else. And he's like, this poor king is imprisoned here. I mean, if this documentary had come out when he was running, Mike Pence would have been out and that would have been his vice president candidate. Like, they were two peas in a pod.
He got a decent amount of the
he went for governor.
vote. Yeah, he got a decent, what was that, 19%? That ain't one person. So. That ain't one or two people that voted for him. I'm telling you, that's not one or two people that voted for him. Oh. I mean, this guy was crazy. He had country albums. He had his face on condoms. He had 3 husbands at one time. He was, you saw him at like the fairgrounds and the rally. People loved that man.
They really did.
They did.
I mean, his country albums turned out to be fake. Like, nothing on that show was what it seemed.
Right.
Nothing.
That was disappointing because I was like, you know what? Whenever I heard like his songs on there, I Saw a Tiger. I think that was like the first song that played on there. I Saw a Tiger. And whenever I first saw it, I was like, I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it. It's not that bad. It wasn't that bad. I was like, he has a decent tone to his voice. I was like, heck, he should have went into the music business. I don't understand why he went into buying a zoo. And then you find out that it was fake. It wasn't even him.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, what?
I wouldn't be surprised if you find out that all 3 of these zoos is like one large conglomerate. Like, they all work together to stir up this like drama to boost all 3 of it.
There was a I don't know if you saw that meme online, but it was right whenever the coronavirus started, and then like it was a meme of President Trump, and he was like in his Oval Office and like scared because of everything that's going on. You see like the headlines, and then he like just hits a button and it says release the documentary to divert people's attention from what was happening, and it was astonishing because it did. It ran the headlines for at least a week.
Yeah, but I mean, and to side tangent, that proves though that Netflix's model of dropping everything at once sometimes isn't the best, because if that would have played out weekly, like any other TV show, they would have dominated the news cycle for months.
Do you think that they would have, though? Do you think it would have held on?
Oh, yeah. How many articles did Jersey Shore have? And that was weekly.
Yeah.
They sold T-shirts for Jersey Shore. Everyone was going around with...
How was Jersey Shore... Sorry to interrupt you. How was Jersey Shore different than the Real World?
Because Real World, actually, if I remember correctly, they had like challenges they had to do.
Did they?
I remember Real World Road Rules. Wow, that's so hard to say. Oh my gosh. Challenges.
That's like newer. I mean, the Real World came out in the 90s.
Yes, I mean
like the very first one, and I don't know if they had. I don't know why, but I thought they just had to like get jobs and they just had to live in a house together and they had to. But I was like, this is exactly what Jersey Shore has to do, except they're just much more like animated characters and a little bit more unlikable characters.
Maybe it was just that, because I remember more so like when they did the 2 challenges combined, where like each thing was like challenged against each other. So I thought that's how the whole series was. My sister used to love Real World and Road Rules. So Challenge was like it was like if Justice League and Avengers met.
Right. So I was like, how did this thing become like such a cult hit? Similar to Tiger King. I mean, it had all the elements of just pure unadulterated insanity. Like, it was absolutely insane. So much so that like, until somebody brought it to my attention, I never questioned that bomber jacket. I never noticed it. There was so much going on. I never even noticed he had an EMT's jacket on.
Yeah.
I never noticed, like, nobody nobody questions anything that dude was driving in like a dune buggy with a skeleton beside him, like a little fake skeleton. Nobody questioned anything anymore. Like watching it, like everything just seems so natural. Or that dude at the end on the jet ski, just like bobbing up and down in the water. He was like, hold on, real quick. I wanna get this. Or that guy that's like, you know what? I'll do that interview with you, but I'm only gonna do that interview if it's while I'm taking a bath. Or while I'm shirtless. Was he in the bathtub? I think he was in the bathtub.
No, he wasn't in the bathtub. He was shirtless though. But that guy said like Netflix made him look bad because he did film stuff, I guess, with like his teeth in and like his shirt on, and they purposely picked that. And if I felt bad for anybody in that thing, I felt bad for him because that poor dude was made to look like, some kind of Neanderthal basically, and like he's a pretty smart dude.
Which dude was that? Because there was a couple of dudes that had no teeth.
It was his.
There was Joe's husband.
Him.
Oh, okay. So I don't know the validity of their relationship, but I did feel bad for. I think he has a wife now, or he's engaged now.
Yeah.
Because he said I'm not gay. Like I wasn't gay. I think it was just like the firearms, the dirt bikes, and the meth. Like I don't know I don't know what it was at the time. And then it was him, and then Travis, who sadly died, and we saw it. He died like on television, so that was disturbing. And then I guess Travis wasn't gay either.
Right.
And Joe just kind of had these guys around. Mind you, Joe was what, in his mid-40s, and they were 18, 17 years old?
Mid-40s, he's a shot-out 45
I think whenever they met, I think he's in his early 60s now, or late 50s. But I think whenever they met, he was maybe in his mid to late 40s, and they were like 16, 17 years old. They were very young men who he married and shared a bed with and shared drugs with. It was all very crazy how all that kind of happened. What I also think is pretty intense is Dylan, his current husband, is like steadfast. This dude's like a rock.
Yeah.
For his husband, and he's extremely supportive, which I'm sure Joe needs as he's sitting in prison. Do you think they're gonna let him out?
That's a good question. I would say no, just because again, like there was a lot of.
Do you think he's gonna serve the full 22?
What's up?
Do you think he's gonna serve the full 22 years?
No, I think he'll be out for good behavior, but I don't think he's gonna be out like on a pardon. If he does get out of jail earlier, it's either because good behavior or a technicality. Because when they talked about that trial, there was a lot of things where I was like,
right.
Something's not adding up here. 2 and 2 is not equaling 4.
If he's smart, he needs to get out of jail, and then him and Dylan need to go live in like a hut in Anchorage, Alaska, and just never speak to anyone again. Yeah. But I don't think that's him. I don't think he has that in him. I think that the showman in him is going to be like, you know what? I need to... because people are going to come at him with offers. I'm sure. He would be like the king of reality TV. If he had a TV show about his life...
Yep.
My God.
Well, I mean, they were trying to do that. They were trying to... Trying. Because, again, I go back to, where was this going to play? Because Animal Planet wasn't going to have it on there.
No.
Discovery Channel. No thing that has to deal with animals.
Maybe Comedy Central or like True TV.
Like, no thing that has to do with animals is going to have it on there. Because in no way, shape, or form where you're like, these animals are well treated and well cared for. Like,
This seems legitimate.
It was like some of the worst treatment. But then again, like I said, he might get out on a technicality because when you watch that documentary, it looks like they're setting him up at a point. This man got dragged by a tiger. No one shot a fire hose at the tiger. No one screamed. The camera didn't fall and they went in. Like
they were steady rolling. They were steady rolling, watching this man get literally ripped through that cage.
It was like 30 feet. He got pulled. And
Yeah.
then Jeff Loeb is over here messing with a lion. The lion freaks out on him, and immediately they have a fire hose like spraying the lion down to get him off. Which also, I feel like you earned that, dude. Like that lion, you should have stopped playing with it a long time ago.
Right.
But like nobody helped Joe, and I was like, I feel like this is a setup. This is where they're like, oh my god, it's gonna happen, and like no one helped him.
Right. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
And people were like, yeah, it's insane. Make sure you guys let us know what you think. We're going to put a poll up whether Joe should be released from prison or not. Not that Donald Trump looks at our polls, our polling, but in case he does, and you really want him out of jail, let us know. Make sure you guys give us a follow on Facebook, as well as check out our YouTube channel and Twitter. We'll leave all the information on the video for you guys. Thanks for tuning in this week.
And that will do it for us on Beg Pardon in a strange edition of this week's episode. As always, he's been Anthony. I've been Carlos. And remember, Stranger Things, just not a show on Netflix. Until next time.